Researchers have said that humans have done a thorough job of contaminating all corners of the Earth. The effects of human activity of the environment have become a worldwide major concern, as they have changed the world in unprecedented ways. As scientists look for a solution, it's important that every person is enlightened on the factors that contribute to this state, which has been the major cause of the unnatural extinctions. One recent worry that's come to the attention of scientists is that there's no oxygen in the Gulf of Oman. Researchers from the University of East Anglia have reported that the long-standing zones of oxygen-depleted waters of the Arabian Sea has now extended into the northwestern side, making it the biggest and thickest of all dead zones on Earth. The team discovered that the levels of oxygen in the Gulf have reduced dramatically, and the dead zone had well below the average oxygen concentration. This data was collected by researchers back in the 1990s. This area has mostly been off limits to researchers as a result of piracy and geopolitical tensions. Researchers from the Oman Sultan University and the University of East Anglia deployed sea gliders or underwater robots to survey the Gulf of Oman, and they did this for a period of 8 months. This was between 2015 and 2016. And during this time they were sending data to researchers. This was on the oxygen concentration and ocean currents through satellites. Findings from these studies indicated that the dead zones of this gulf has increased in severity and size, comprising entirely of no oxygen, or extremely low levels of oxygen. They proposed the major factors contributing to the growing dead zones is warming waters, which have resulted in bacterial growth, and a reduction in the Gulf's oxygenation when the ocean layers mix. Other contributing factors include rising pollution and nitrogen, and phosphorus runoffs from fertilizers, which feed the algae blooms known for their oxygen-greedy nature. These algae also block fish gills and use more oxygen when they die and start decaying. According to the reports from the University of East Anglia, the team of researchers combined data from their sea gliders with high-resolution computer simulations to check the spread of oxygen in the northwestern Arabian waters. They did this during different seasons. From their findings, the dead zones move up and down from season to season, squeezing fish in a thin layer close to the surface. The Arabian Sea supports many species of fish, even those that can tolerate low levels of oxygen. However, Bastien Quest, a marine biochemist at the University of East Anglia, says that the findings of the research have shown the actual situation is far worse than expected. Dead zones are called so because they cannot support aquatic life. According to Bastien, the ocean is suffocating, and with marine life requiring oxygen they cannot survive. This is a real environmental concern with grave consequences for all life forms, especially humans. Researchers warn that the size of ocean dead zones has increased by 4-fold since 1950, and low oxygen areas around the coastlines have increased over 10 times. More than 500 dead zones have been discovered since 1950. Other water bodies with relatively big dead zones include Mexico's Northern Gulf, and the Baltic Sea, which is located between southern Sweden and Denmark. Another worry that's come to the attention of scientists is that of plastic in Antarctica. In the most recent disturbing news about the impact of human activity on nature, Greenpeace announced their discovery of plastic pollution and toxic chemicals while exploring Antarctica. After snow and water samples from the Antarctic were analysed, traces of microplastics and chemicals were seen. According to Frida Benningston, who is in charge of the campaign to protect the Antarctic by Greenpeace, even though Antarctica may be known for its pristine remote wilderness, humans are guilty of causing pollution, climate change and industrial krill fishing. She continued to say that even the remotest habitats in Antarctica are being affected, and measures need to be put into place to stop the pollution and restore the entire ecosystem from the damages caused due to this pollution. The samples were collected when Greenpeace were on an expedition to Antarctica, and when analysed, 7 out of the 8 samples of surface water tested positive for microplastics. Additionally, 7 out of the 9 samples of snow collected tested positive for toxic chemicals and PFAS, which are commonly used in the industries and manufacture of consumer products, and are said to be associated with the reproductive and developmental complications in wildlife. Some of the snow that was gathered was freshly fallen, which implies that most of the toxic chemical pollution came from the atmosphere. Little is known about the microplastics in Antarctica, and this study has shed new light on the degree of contamination in this region. These reports have come due to the rising concerns about the levels of plastic pollution, as scientists are warning risks of permanent contamination of planet Earth. The UN warned it among the greatest environmental threats, saying that even though some countries have taken action, there is still a lot more that needs to be done. German researchers reported that sea ice floating on the Arctic Ocean was also contaminated with plastic waste, which could be released into the waters as the ice melts away due to global warming. In trying to understand how far the pollution has spread, Eike Peeken, an author in the Institute for Polar and Marine Research, told that new studies should indicate how far plastics are windblown into the Arctic by wind, and also what amount are swept by currents of the ocean. They continued to say that they observed all manner of waste from fishing in the Arctic, and they tried to remove them from the water. He mentioned the need to place a ban on all human activities in this area to protect the incredible wildlife of the Arctic. Currently, plastic is almost everywhere, from the Arctic to the Antarctic to the deepest of the oceans, and urgent measures need to be taken to prevent the flow of plastics into the waters, to conserve the oceans and marine life for future generations. Greenpeace is doing research as part of campaigns of creating an Antarctic Ocean sanctuary. At around 1.8 million kilometers squared, this would be 5 times Germany's size and possibly the wildest protection space in the world. This sanctuary is the EU's proposal, and a decision is most likely going to be made in the Arctic Ocean Commission meeting that will be held this coming October. Another thing is the melting Arctic ice releases stored toxic chemicals. As if the threat of global warming was not enough, new research has suggested the melting Arctic ice may be releasing more than just water. As ice covers melt due to changes in the climate, deadly chemicals that were stuck in the ice from years of pollution are being released back into the atmosphere, exposing all life forms to toxins that are known for causing illness and even death. Scientists warn that the amount of toxic chemicals piled in the polar regions is not known, and if released into the atmosphere, it will undermine all the efforts made globally to minimize their exposure to humans and the environment. The chemicals trickling out with the increase in global warming include chlorine, pesticides, DDT, industrial chemicals and fungicides. All of the above persistent organic pollutants were in the past popular in agricultural use. Even their grave consequences on human beings and the environment have been learned. Persistent organic pollutants have been banned globally, but due to their resilience they were transported over a long distance, which is why their traces can be found in places where they've never been used. Persistent organic pollutants, or POPs, have the potential to cause birth defects or even cancer, and their degrade time takes a very long time. This explains why they can be carried over long distances and be stored up for a long time. Eventually, significant POP amounts find their way to the Arctic, where the ice-cold temperatures have locked in their chemicals, thus preventing their spreading to the environment. Researchers say that as a result of the current changing climate, the toxic chemicals are being released with melting ice. A scientist at the Institute of Environmental Assessment and Water Research in Barcelona, Mr. Jordi Datch, said that new studies brought in very convincing evidence of the release of POPs, and that these are abundant in the Arctic. According to Datch, the new studies demonstrate the potential of climate change in remobilizing POPs that are stored in the ice, snow and water, and even soil, and eventually the liberated POPs will be carried to other parts of the world. Harley Hung of the Air Quality Research Division of Environment Canada said that their research provides evidence of POP remobilization in the Arctic. She labelled this as the beginning of a story which should be followed by attempts to quantify the POPs in the Arctic and finding out how fast they will leak out. The fate of the ice POPs largely depends on how fast the Arctic warming will occur, and the chemicals' interaction with snow and the rain. Because POPs mostly accumulate in fats, they will most likely be concentrated at the top of the food chain. So what do you make of these ocean discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.